Deputy Speaker, as a teacher by training, I think it's been a fundamental and profound understanding by anybody who works in the teaching profession for many, many decades, and I suspect by many parents. The former member speaking acknowledged his new insight as a new parent into education, but there is a fundamental truth in all education, and that is the earlier you invest, the better the return you get on that investment. Now, I was trained and worked as a high school and a TAFE teacher, and so I'm very profoundly aware that when you're at the remedial end of working in education, when somebody has gone to the age of 13 or 14 or older, without a solid foundation in the basics that they need and they're struggling in education, you really are up against it to put in what needs to be given to that person so that they can be reach their full potential. It's much more difficult, it's much more expensive to actually try to redress problems once people get to that age. And we've known the evidence is in. This isn't, ideology, as the Prime Minister likes to complain about people talking about. This is evidence. It's been evidence for decades by researchers and people in the education sphere that if you invest in children at the most formative time in their life, and we know that's the years 0 to 5, and get them a solid educational foundation at that point in time, you are maximising their chance to succeed, not only for the rest of their educational life, but also into their adult and working life as well. And so for a long time we've been pushing in this country, and I'm very pleased that the former Labor government got behind commitments for early learning, particularly for 4-year-olds. Now, obviously, there's an interest in having 3 and 4-year-olds, but that commitment was there for preschool for all 4-year-olds, and we did that because we respected the evidence and we cared about our youngest minds. We cared that every young child under the age of 5 had that opportunity to get on the step to an education on an even footing. That it wasn't the case that if you happen to have a lot of money, you could buy a good quality experience for your littlies. You probably already got an enriched home with lots of learning aids and experience, but you would also be able to access what was expensive preschool opportunities. And so we said that this should be available to all children. That's an investment. It's not a cost to budget, it's an investment in our future. And these little kids, I visited the Smith Street Children's Centre last week myself in my own electorates. I know many colleagues, indeed colleagues on the other side of the House did last week for Early Learning Matters Week. And it's just, when you see 3 and 4-year-olds and the excitement and drive to learn and to be, part of a great experience, it's just so inspiring, and we need to foster that. Too often we have systems that kill that off, I have to say. Often by the time they got to high school, I would think, what have we done? We've killed that inquisitiveness and joy in learning. We need to put more into that, and that's an investment for this nation. So it is absolutely shocking that the government will not give long-term commitment to that preschool opportunity. What they've been doing is just rolling it over year by year. That means if you go to enrol your littlie in a school, you won't know whether that preschool program being run in that centre will still be available by the time your little one gets to that point, because the government won't give long-term certainty. It is, I would suggest, something that they can't just push off till after an election, which I think what's been exposed with the budget papers makes us cynical about. It's got to be a commitment. Parents and families in my electorate and the centres that I visited and the parents I talked to want to know now that this government is going to give a long-term commitment to preschool education, a long-term commitment to their kids, and a long-term commitment to all of our best interests in having a really well-educated population for the future.
I thank the honourable member, and I call the member for